Hey guys, Mr. Forge here. Today, doing another video. I know it's been quite a while. Everything going on, just been busy. I'm sorry. So with that, we're gonna get started on a fun project I've kind of been wanting to do for a while. I like doing historical type knives. Today, that's what we're gonna do. So right now, guys, I'm gonna explain what I'll be working on. I'm going to be making a Scottish Dirk. Now, Scottish Dirk is around a 12-inch blade knife, single-edged, and I'm going to go ahead and get into a little bit of the history of the Dirk because I do find the history of certain things pretty interesting. So if you guys want to skip the history part, go right to the forging process. I'll put the timestamp in the description so you can go ahead and get to that. So the Scottish Dirk initially started out as a classic Bullock dagger. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's quite hilarious. It sounds exactly, it looks probably exactly how you think it sounds. Pretty much it's a long pointy blade with the hilt, or guard I should say, looks like two testicles and a phallic symbol for a handle. And later on that kind of changed into the Dirk. Now the Dirk historically was a Scottish weapon for the Highlanders. So there's the Highland Scots and there's Lowland Scots and there's the English. And the Lowland Scots and English viewed the Highland Scots as like barbarians and all that fun stuff. But Highland Scots carried the Dirk. Now the Dirk, like I said, evolved into from the Bullock dagger. The Bullock dagger was a two-edged dagger. And the Dirk kind of split into two categories. One was a two-edged and one was a single-edged. Eventually, though, as time went on, the single-edged Dirk is what became more prevalent. So around the 17s into the 18 and even today, 19 and 20s, the single-edged Dirk is predominantly what was used to include by the Highlanders in Scotland. In fact, actually the Scottish Dirk was outlawed and banned, along with kilts and bagpipes and stuff, by the English at one point. So we're going to be making a single blade Dirk. Now, the Dirk is roughly around 12 inches long, single edge. Usually there's a fuller across the spine, and sometimes there is some jipping or spine, designs on the blade. And then the hilts and everything, the crossguard has just changed dramatically over the years. Like I said, initially it had started out as small little balls, but later on it became more practical as a type of handguard. Pommel will be flared, maybe with a round guard on it, so you'll have something along those lines. The handle used to be cylindrical, but now has become more, the way we see it's tapered or oval shaped, so that way it fits more comfortably in the hand. And the pommel has also changed to just being a simple type of pommel now. But as the years went on, especially during the 1800s, the Dirk became more decorative, more so than a side weapon, especially over in Europe. So now all of a sudden they would add stones and jewels and all these other fun things because it was strictly decorative. It wasn't really meant to be the sidearm. Now the Dirk, though, was originally a sidearm. Initially for the Highlanders, they would have a shield in one hand, a broadsword, and then they would carry the Dirk. Again, next to now, it's changed. And over the years, naval officers would carry a Dirk with them. And you would see that as time went on, it wasn't just the Scottish that would carry it. You would even see the Japanese have a version of the Dirk dagger. So the Dirk became widespread. And during the 1800s, especially when the colonies here in America started, the Scots, the Dutch, and all of them brought their Dirks with them, and it kind of became more of a practical knife again here in the U.S. Now in the U.S., there were just a buttload of knives from all over the world. One of the biggest knives that was around when we made and talked about was the Bowie knife, or Bowie knife, depending what you want to call it from. And that evolved from like the fighting knife, the Spanish like fighting knives, or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head. So that was one of the, that knife was one of the big ones. But the Dirk was also another big knife, especially amongst Germanic and Scottish and Dutch colonists that came over to the U.S. Because that's what they had over there. It was a good practical knife. It was long and pointy. And the reason it was long and pointy, it was used meant to pierce armor, and it was real heavy initially. But again, as time went on, it became thinner and thinner, and it just became a good side weapon. Now, fun fact, what most people don't know is that Dirk would also come with like a fork, so that way they could also eat. We're not making the fork. Maybe. I don't know. I might. But just a little quick history on the Scottish Dirk. So we're going to go ahead and get to making it. Now I'm going to make it out of monosteel. I was going to try... You know what? No. Let's go all out on this one. We're going to make this one hopefully really nice. I'm going to attempt to make a Damascus blade Dirk. The first Damascus blade I ever made. Now if this Damascus billet fails, then it will be monosteel. Alright, excuse me. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. So what are we going to need today? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to need, obviously, a forge. So if you have a forge, go ahead and grab one of those. Obviously, you're going to need your hammer, all that fun jazz. Also, you're going to need flux, because if we're going to be doing some kind of forge welding, we need a flux. And what I use is right here, 20 mule team borax. Also, the steel that I'm going to be using is going to be 15 and 20 and 1075. We're going to try to make the Dirk. Now, the Dirk is supposed to be a 12-inch blade. I'm going to do my best to get 12 inches. And now the handle, though, it's going to be usually like an additional, depending on who made it, to include the guard and whatever, it was about an additional 6 to 8 inches. So we're going to try going for that. So we're going to try to make this a really, really nice knife. So that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get these cut up as best as I can, because I don't have a bandsaw. Make ourselves a Damascus billet. This is going to take a lot of work. So this is not a one-day build. So with that, guys, let me go ahead and get started. Alright, got it measured out and marked. So now I'm going to start cutting them. I'm going to use the angle grinder. Try to cut as straight as I can. Okay, now that I got them cut out, 1075 and 15 and 20, it's time to do a little bit more prep work. So what I need to do now is I need to put them on the grinder. I need to clean both sides off on these things. I don't need a high, real low grit, like a 120, a 220 is going to be sufficient enough. We don't want to take too much off, and we don't want to get them unflat. Then when we're done with that, we're going to soak them in acetone. Could be good times. And then we'll start stacking them. I'll show you that process in a second. I'm going to get the grinder set up so I can go ahead and clean these off. Alright, I'm using a semi-worn 180 belt. What I'm doing is I'm putting my 15 and 20 on this magnet. I got one here, one here, one here. So I'll just quickly hit this side, this side, this side, flip them around, do it again. Your plugs on. So I got them all cleaned up in a bowl here. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to dump acetone in this bowl, mix it around whatever to get them nice and clean, so that way I can remove any grease, dirt, and all other stuff. So go ahead, I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so you can kind of sort of see it in here, the video, or the camera here. Let's see if I can. I got it full of acetone right now. I'm going to just let that soak for a little bit, break it down. I'm going to get some gloves on, and then I'm going to wipe each one of these off so they can definitely remove any of the, oils and dirt and stuff like that. There you have it. 2 stacks of metal here. We got 1075 and 15 and 20. So now, what I'm going to do is this is going to be almost too big to do by hand as one big billet. I'm probably going to do 2 separate billets. Because this will be 24 layers. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably do 6, 10, 75 on one, and 6, 15, and 20 in one billet, and then same thing on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you how we stack them. So I have here a small stack of 10, 75, 15, and 20. So it starts with 10, 75, and then between each is 15 and 20. All right, and so this is right now just 12 layers. If I were to do 24 layers, it would be about this big. And without a real good power hammer or press, I kind of have to do it small like this to start with. They'll be okay though. Okay, so I got it nice and flat on the inside here. Well, fairly. Actually, this side's not too bad. I may grind it down, may not. And this side's flat. Got it all clamped up. Now, to start tack welding it. I can put this around the grinder to kind of get this even, but it's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and just tack weld all that, and then we'll go from there. I'll let y'all in a little secret. I suck at welding. I don't even have a welding helmet. I would have, but I broke it, so I got to use these things. How did I break my welding helmet? The forge fell on top of it while it was on fire. Didn't realize it's still recording. I thought I stopped it. Alright, well, I got that one sort of welded up. I should try to put a handle on it, but I'm not good at doing that. I've tried before in the past, and the handles never stick. So now I'm just going to kind of let that cool real quick, then I'll put it back in the acetone, clean it up, and then I'll throw it in the forge. Actually, I could start getting the other billet put together while that's cooling. Okay, I got 2 billets welded up. The other one's on the table there cooling. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is they're not great welds, but hopefully it's well enough to keep it together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get this in the forge. I'm going to get that forge preheated, as hot as I can possibly get it. And then when I'm done getting that preheated as hot as I can get it, I'm going to get this thing screaming hot. And then I'm going to put flux in it, or on the sides, all over the sides of it. Afterwards, I'll take it out of the forge and I'm going to gently tap it from the middle or from the bottom working way out. We want to make sure we get all the flux out. We want to have no inclusions. So that's what we're going to want to do. I'm going to do one by hand, and then the other one I'm going to try to use the press I have, see if that will do anything. So let me go ahead and fire it and see what happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I put the billet in the forge. I'm going to let it get red hot. I'm going to make sure it's even on all 4 sides and make sure it's going to stay hot. Now I'm going to put the flux on. Once that's done, I'm going to put it back in the forge. I'm going to do approximately about 5 to 10 minutes per each side, because we want the whole thing to be screaming hot. When it's ready to be forge welded, you're going to see it looks like little wisps of smoke, and it looks real liquidy, like, slick almost. Alright, like I did with my sand my billet, what you're going to want to do with this is you want to start towards the back, in the middle of the billet, and work your way middle to the sides and then out to the top. This is pretty small, so I can only need to hit from the bottom, work my way up. So we want to push all that stuff, the flux out, so we don't have any inclusions. Also, what we're going to want to do too is nice gentle taps. So we're going to do nice gentle taps on one side, flip it over, nice gentle taps on the other side, then we're going to flux it again, throw it back in the forge, and then when we take it back out again, we're going to do the same thing. A little bit harder, not much harder, just a little bit harder, and a little bit harder. Flux it, put it back in the forge, take it out, and when it's hot again, so we're going to flux it, put it back in the forge. When it's hot enough again, take it out, then just
good and hard, not the hardest yet. Flip it good and hard, and then flux it, put it back in the forge again, take it out, and then regular forging strikes or blows. Okay, this is the last time we're doing like a setting the welds kind of thing. So this time here, regular forging strength, okay, blows. Okay, this is the 4th time we're doing this. After this, it's up to you whether you want to keep fluxing or not. I may flux one more time. I'm an overfluxer. I just want to be extra careful. But remember, too much flux will get into your forge and it'll eat away all that crap, and then you're going to have to redo your forge. That's why I don't do a lot of forge welding. So, should be ready to take out and start this. This is when usually you see the stuff really fly. Okay, so it feels solid, which is great, because if it didn't, you can feel the difference because it's forge weld. So now what we do is we're going to let it soak about 5 minutes per side, so that way it will just let the welds take. Once that's done, I'm going to lower the temperature a little bit of the forge, and then I can forge it just kind of like normal. You still want to forge Damascus pretty hot because you don't want it to split open on you, but we should be okay right now. So happy about this little billet. Who would have thought? Forge welding pieces of metal together would make you so happy. At least me. So we ran into a slight snag. So as you can see, the forge is on a different stand. Apparently the table thing I was using got so hot, the metal and everything there started to bend and it started to tilt. So it became unsafe to use. It was just too thin of a metal. I didn't really consider that. I've used it for years too. So probably just over time. So right now I have it on a stand on top. Fire breaks these with pizza ovens and stuff, so it'll be fine. So it looks like I gotta make a new forge stand. So it's okay though. It's all right.
So I got the 2 billets welded up here. On this side it's completely welded. Over here it's completely welded. I just kind of did a small weld here and then 2 tack welds here. Now the reason I didn't weld it all the way around is because it's not 100% flat and even, and that might not make a big difference, but I just don't want air pockets stuck in there. So I left one side open and this open, so when I go to forge it out, forge weld them together, it will push the air pockets hopefully out, and that's my goal. So I'm going to hit it from one side out to the other. That's the reasoning behind it. Good news is that there are both these billets fully. I don't know how well you can see it in here or not. Forge welded. There was no inclusions at all, which I am super stoked about. So I even had to cut because one billet was a little wider and longer than the other one, so kind of had to cut it down a little bit. But so I'm really happy about this. Now this might not become the knife I wanted it to be because it's probably not enough steel, but it's gonna be turned into something. So with that, I'm gonna throw it in the forge while I got a little bit of time left. Get it really hot, forge weld these together real quick, and then I'll pick up tomorrow.
Okay, we're gonna do the same thing we did last time. We're gonna take it out, we're gonna flush it real quick, put it back in there, let it soak, and then we're gonna do gentle taps, all that fun stuff. Because you don't see a dark line in the middle, which tells us that the forge weld it took, which is a good thing. That's really bright, like looking in the sun. And it feels like your face is next to a sun. Well guys, I'm done for tonight. I went ahead and took an angle grinder to these 3 of the 4 sides here. And this side here I actually used the actual grinder itself. And surprisingly, it's good. There is no I had to take out a little bit of it here, but there are no cracks, there are no delaminations, there's no inclusions, nothing. It's all solid, one homogeneous piece. Now, this may sound like a no big deal thing, but I've never made Damascus before. So with that, this is pretty exciting for me. I've done ceramic, I've made other blades and stuff out of for fun. I just didn't know if I could do it by hand as well as I was hoping, and I'm fantastic. It took me over 8 hours to do it, but I did it. So with that, guys, that's it for today with this Damascus billet. Tomorrow, we're going to put it back in the forge. We're going to flatten it out somewhere. It's pretty thick. Lengthen it out. And we're going to try to turn it into a knife. With that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.